Welcome to the Flower Essence Podcast and join us on an exploration of the healing wisdom of flowers.
With combined decades of experience in the study and practice of flower essence therapy, I, Kathleen Aspens, and co-host Rokana Feld guide you to reconnect to nature with these potent vibrational remedies.
Today on the Flower Essence Podcast, Kathleen and I are going to dive into the subject of life purpose.
Life purpose can mean all sorts of things to all sorts of people, stemming from right vocation to sort of the soul calling that's on a more spiritual level for an individual. And Kathleen, what are some thoughts that you have on this topic of life purpose that can get quite deep and juicy?
Yeah, it is a really big topic, and it's certainly one I know that I work with a lot of my clients to kind of hone in on it. You know, so many of us, I think, are struggling with finding that life purpose, and there's sort of a notion as if life purpose is a static item. You know, and not that it is something that evolves over time. So a lot of people are kind of waiting for the thing. And what they really need to be doing is going out and working, and then they find the thing by working and going on that. Are you finding that too?
That's a big one. I think, there's dreaming and laying in bed or on the couch and thinking about what should I be doing with my life, which kind of comes from more of a depressed, unhappy state of mind, being not satisfied, maybe not depressed, but definitely not satisfied with what's happening, with it happening in someone's life. And the thing I see is in order to get there, you have to be out there doing it. It's life purpose is sort of an energy that comes from the sun, from action and finding what is making you happy on all your levels, on your spiritual level, your physical, mental, emotional level at the same time. And then if you're lucky, or, then it's also your vocation, or not, it's your vocation as well, which may or may not be part of somebody's reason to get out of bed in the morning. And funny enough, that's, I think, the definition or a translation of the Japanese ikigai. Have you heard of that?
Oh, I don't know.
Which, and I don't know a lot about it, but it's sort of something that, as other Japanese trendy sort of spiritual topics have hit the United States, there's a few books written about it that become bestsellers, and I don't know enough about it to know if their translations are truly accurate or not. But it has to do with the reason for getting out of bed in the morning, and then the intersection of your values, your passions, what society needs, your calling, fulfillment, purpose, etc. And there's all sorts of fun diagrams, on Google that, like Venn style diagrams where these things all intersect, and your ikigai is in the middle.
Oh, I see. Oh, what a cool idea. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and it is, I think that a lot of times we can do that sort of what we were talking about, that analysis paralysis thing, where you're waiting for that one perfect thing. And instead, like you're talking about, that needing that solar energy, it needs you to start taking some action, and then you can define it along the way. I like that. I like that image of it. For me, I think a little bit like the seed isn't fulfilling its life purpose until it starts to germinate and grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can be waiting in the dark forever and never germinate and never do your thing. You need to take the leap and start germinating.
And isn't that the great thing about all the flowers? Because they have that, and they have, when you look at any of them, you can see a flower is fulfilling its own purpose by blossoming, by going through the whole cycle from the seed. And really, the way I see uh, the exercise of finding one's life purpose find is finding out basically your true self, who you are. It doesn't, come from somewhere else. It's in you already, is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's in you already what your life purpose is, and it's just a matter of letting it blossom.
Yeah, letting the pattern express itself,
Right.
as it will in this time and space. In another time and space, it might express a little differently. But yeah, that's that sort of that notion of you're growing in your environment, and things can change in your environment, but your blueprint, what you're destined to be, is an expression of both your internal destiny and your external environment as well. That's
I love
an interesting
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of brings to mind when we're talking about these flowers, the little tiny guys out in the field are not going, I need to be a lotus. No,
Yeah.
they're doing their little thing. I mean, which brings to mind the buttercup. The FES makes the most beautiful buttercup essence, and it's blooming right now. I'm seeing it out in my fields right now. The little tiny yellow flowers that just grow in profusion, and the essence really speaks to that. I'm not doing enough. I'm not going to be a big enough star. I'm not going to be making a world impact. It's like, no, what you're doing is important. You just need to keep doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that energy of the buttercup. I'm seeing it all over my yard and around the forest here as well. The yellow flowers. So the yellow flowers are a big part of this. And
Yes.
yeah. And there's a couple that come to mind for me. And then the one is St. John's wort, which interestingly, we know it used sort of in herbalism, allopathically for, depression.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a wonderful flower essence for much, much more than that, as a bringer of light and
Yes.
a way to kind of harness just light, filling your conscious awareness with light, and helping to harness that and integrate it into the physical form.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and so again, coming from that, and oh, what a solar plant! I mean, it's all about the sun and bringing the the work of, I don't know, you're putting your consciousness into the sun and just like letting yourself come out of the dark and blossom, and I think it can help an individual see what's within themselves.
Yeah.
Without
So
going,
cool. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just without going into an existential crisis. It's supportive, not shocking in its revelation.
Mm-hmm.
How I would see it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, and that whole solar premise, it's just, I remember harvesting some for oil to create an oil. And it's always blooming right around the summer solstice. And I know I've harvested on that day. So it has that quality of that when it's at its peak, it's when that solar principle is the strongest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lovely.
How cool is that? Yeah, I've worked with a Chinese species of the St. John's wort that I'm calling the Great St. John's wort, because the flowers are about 1.5 inches around. They're really big, and that quality comes through from species to species. In this particular one, it has a lot more to do with letting go of the fear of becoming who you are. Just recognizing that paper tiger of that fear of being seen, or that fear of just showing up as yourself, and just letting that just blow right through you, and like, nope, I'm just, no matter what happens, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah, I think I've worked with that species or something similar. Is it used ornamentally in places?
There are a lot of different hypericums,
Yeah.
and so they kind of all could be described as St. John's wort. The one that I worked with is not a common one, but I do
Okay.
know the one that you're talking about that's used a lot of times as a landscaping, like a ground cover.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
but I expect they all have, different versions of the medicine, as far as
Absolutely.
essences go. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
How
they
about you?
don't all make the red healing oil, but they all have the energetic uh, ac- activity for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
slightly different versions. I think that one of the essences that I'd love to talk about a little bit is wild oat. Just
Yeah.
because it's so, Dr. Bach's wild oat is just so applicable to this whole topic of purpose. It kind of classically, it's thought about as being the one for the one where you can't choose. When you try all sorts of different things and you're like, you never really land on anything and you just keep trying something new, hoping that that new thing will be the thing. So I think that wild oat is really useful in this context that we're talking about in helping you let go of the shiny object syndrome and really start focusing on like what really is feeding me instead of just hoping that something else will come along that's going to be the thing.
Yeah. We couldn't have a conversation about life purpose without wild oat. It's sort of the essential or quintessential, essence to use, like you say, for finding that. And especially anytime you don't know what essence to use, right?
Right. I mean, that was Dr. Bach's prescription is that if
Yeah.
that you didn't know what to do or the person didn't really know what their issue was, is you give them wild oat and then you find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. What
So,
else do you like to what do you like to think about as far as this whole topic of life purpose? What's the next piece for you?
yeah, well, along the aspect of really going within to um, do some soul searching or self analysis, the lotus, the lotus,
Mm,
uh, so great for stimulating creative visualization, kind of accessing past life data, um, and promoting clarity
yeah.
and openness, aiding in self discovery. So there's a lot that lotus does, and it's a great sort of harmonizer of other essences as well. So it'd be perfect to go along with some of the ones we're talking about and help somebody to see within, to really look and do that soul searching and that internal work, um, when thinking about what their life purpose is,
Yeah.
uncovering it.
So using it in a formula, sort of at the top of the formula is kind of that guiding light influence that directs the rest of the formula. I think
Yeah,
that's a really great use of it. I love
yeah,
it. And that whole symbolism. I mean, there's so much wonderful symbolism that goes along with the lotus. Yeah, that's really sweet. How lovely.
yeah.
I think that aspect of intuitive development regarding life purpose, I think that those things do have a lot to do with one another. And part of what I see that quality of connecting to your purpose, I'd like to go even below that and find out how you got disconnected from your life purpose.
Mhm.
Because I think a lot of people grow up in either a family or a culture that doesn't really recognize their gifts and kind of wants them to fit into somebody's idea of what they should be doing. I mean, somebody who wants to be an artist and is instead sort of kind of pushed into becoming an accountant or something along those lines, where it's just not a good fit, and you lose the energy of life, where you can become really depressed because you're doing something your livelihood doesn't fit with who you are. So connecting and reconnecting to that part of you that speaks why you came here, I think, is really vital. In Chinese medicine, this concept is related to the spirit of the liver, the
Mhm.
hun. And the hun is one of the spirits in the body, which are kind of collectively termed the shen. But the hun is really helpful for helping you to connect to that life force. That, like you said, that reason to get out of bed in the morning. Like, why am I here? And it can be, it doesn't have to be some grandiose thing. It can be that because I love to be of service, or whatever your job might be, you can connect it to that service. impulse. So one of the essences that I use a lot for this is the Kabushi magnolia. And all the magnolias speak to that sort of ensoulment, or connection to your inner spirit, but this one really has that quality of kind of clearing off those imprints of what your family thought you should be or what your culture thought you should be. I mean, women carry a lot of impressions from culture of what you can and cannot do. And I think that this particular magnolia is really helpful in helping you reconnect to that, like, that originating impulse of, like, I came to do this, let's go.
I love that. And I love all the magnolias, as I think I've said before to you.
They're the
This is
best.
why I'm attracted to them so much. Yeah, that's beautiful. And along those lines, you know, even to think differently, sometimes, it takes courage before even taking that. Well, the first step is, in your mind. It's before you get out and actually do anything, you have to sort of make that change in your mind. And it's a transformational process. So I like the fireweed combo by Alaskan Essences,
Oh, yeah.
and I just love that, for dealing with any kind of change, whether it's someone uh, moves your cheese. Have you ever heard who moved my
Oh,
cheese?
yes, yes, I
Old,
have.
like, corporate, book, when things change, for people to, I
Yeah.
guess, be okay with it, or to navigate change, um, in a way that is not reactive. Anyway, I think of that with the fireweed combo, which is kind of funny, but preparing for change is also one of its qualities. And knowing that you want to transform, or you have a transformation or a transition coming up, I think that it's useful for putting it, for preparing for it.
Yeah.
And and it sort of wards off ahead of time any crisis that can come from the transformational process that you're about to embark on.
Totally. I mean, this is such a good topic because you a lot of times we want to have a life purpose, or we aspire to all these things, but we're not actually very comfortable with the process of actual change.
Right.
So we can kind of be going with both the brakes and the gas going at all times. And I love the idea of using fireweed, and particularly that fireweed combo from the Alaskan, to kind of help you kind of go, yep, we're going to have to dig some stuff out or make some shifts in order to get ready for this new thing to grow. Fireweeds in general, I use them so much because there's this whole energy of repatterning that comes about when you use the
Mm-hmm.
fireweeds. Jane Bell talked about the visual of flying, because in Alaska there's not a lot of roads, and they would have to be flying in a little mail plane, for a couple hours, and they'd be going over these burn scars from the previous summer, and it was just nothing but fireweed, as far as the eye could see, this incredible magenta, um, just carpet growing everywhere, and
Wow.
it repatterns the energetics of the land after it's been burned. So I think that process of changing, it's like, this is how everything was, and now we need to establish a new pattern.
Wow. I What a great story. I hadn't heard that. That's amazing.
Rather than expecting that you're going to lay on your couch until you receive that PDF. So I like to use the Houndstung, for this particular purpose, because it kind of helps to, not override your internal skepticism, but it helps you connect to something larger than the intellect, that will help you guide you along this way. And it's not about you figuring it all out or understanding it all, that would stop you from taking the actions that need to be taken.
That that's nice. I haven't really used a hound's tongue that much, so I love hearing how you use it.
Yeah,
Such a
it's a really
great
cool essence.
plant, and I have made an essence with it. It does grow wild here, where I live, so it's pretty neat to watch grow. And I see that it really pushes here where it grows. It it comes up from mounds of dead leaves, like it starts to just push itself out of this uh, heap of decay.
Mm. Huh.
And then its leaves are so big. I mean, that's why they call it hound's tongue.
Right.
It's big and floppy, and it's kind of like, here I am. And then it has these beautiful purple little flowers
Yeah.
that are just so so sweet. And I have not experimented too much with it yet internally, but I love that plant. It makes me very happy to see when it pushes itself up out of those leaves at the corner of my property.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that one of the things that I really like about it, and from spending some time kind of really observing it, it grows where I am too, which we're not too far apart, but you're in a much wetter climate. It grows, and if you look at it, if the botanical name, the cyanoglossum, um, I think refers CYAN, like the blue color we use in printing, or the term that we use for printing. So if you look at it really closely, you can see that the entire plant has a really blue cast. The leaves even have blueness to them, and the flowers have that blue, which is such a rare color in nature, really. It's not very common in the flowering plant world to be blue. But I see that as being almost this connection to the sky. It has that quality of ethericness, of sort of reaching up and above the the mounds of leaves and dirt and soil and all that. It's almost like
Yeah.
it extends, and it makes that connection between sky and earth, right? And so it creates that environment where you can be in the both. You're not out of your body, you're not traveling, you're actually here and connected with that part of you.
Yeah, I definitely see that energy with it.
Yeah.
Neat.
Interesting. Yeah. What a cool thing that we're talking about. This is really fun to talk about this whole life purpose topic. I mean, obviously everybody you work with is going to be different and have different issues. I would love to talk about pomegranate.
Oh, nice.
I mean, pomegranate is such a great women's essence in general. It's so helpful for not only when we're trying to connect to why we're here, but also to balance everything we care about and everybody we care about. It's like we all have, we have homes, we have families, we have pets, maybe we have lives to balance with this real desire to be of service in the greater way, out in the world. And so I think pomegranate is a really helpful essence for women to be able to kind of balance all these things and spend enough time nurturing themselves so that they can nurture everybody else too.
Yeah, not feel overwhelmed by the demands of everyone around them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there was another yellow flower that I had in mind in relation to this life purpose topic, and it's about making things happen, and that's dandelion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's such a resilient plant. I mean, it makes me laugh. It's on the commercials for Roundup.
I know.
And everybody
Isn't that sad?
on their lawns. And what happens? It keeps coming up. I mean, they can't even kill it with, the most toxic chemical there is.
And they'd keep trying every year. It's
And
like,
they
no,
keep
please.
trying. And it's like, nope, I'm still coming up. And then, so it has this solar energy, this lion feline energy. It's got so much power. Fearless is the word that comes to mind. I think in that realm that you were talking about with women, it helps to reclaim personal power. And that's a big part of moving forward with any kind of life purpose. I mean, you kind of just have to you have to take your power back from wherever you've left it, wherever that is, with other people, with places, with past experiences. Because you're going to need that to make any kind of change or transformation and in this realm. So the other thing that I find dandelion is great for is focusing will. And when you think about after it flowers and it has the seed pod, puffball, it's so funny, everybody makes a wish and then blows
Oh,
the
yeah.
puffball to put their wish out in the world. And that, that's part of the flower essence energy as well, is making that wish and releasing it into the world. So focusing the will, the energy and the personal power to make it happen and to follow your dream, basically. I feel like that essence is just so key with this kind of work, and
Yeah.
especially for women who need that, maybe more so, or anyone who needs to reclaim a little bit more of their own personal power.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm excited about talking about dandelion because that was one of the ones I was thinking about too. If you think about it, we're kind of looping back to where I was presenting that concept of the Chinese medicine concept of the liver. So it includes the Western notion of what the liver does, and if you think about it, dandelion
Oh my
is
gosh,
totally a liver remedy, right?
absolutely.
So energetically, what it's doing is supporting the liver, and the liver is there to help you get out and do. The
Yeah,
liver is considered to be the general of the body. And so the general is the one who makes plans, who executes, who, kicks ass and takes names, right? And so
yeah,
by connecting to that dandelion energy to support your liver, you're supporting that Hun spirit, where that helps you, do what you came here to do and really get it done. That's so cool that I when I was thinking about it and researching dandelion from the Chinese medicine angle, I thought, well, yeah, it's totally obvious why that's kind of part of that liver concept.
yeah. That's a great link, because that is one of the foremost herbs for supporting the liver on a physical level. I love it.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's so, it's such a wonderful plant. I just absolutely adore
Me
dandelion.
too.
I love bitter. I love the greens. I really enjoy
Yeah.
eating it on a regular
And
basis.
it's now's the time for our bodies, it's spring, and eating those greens. It's so healthy and good for us and nourishing.
Yeah, and
I
the liver season is the spring.
Yeah.
So it's when the liver is starting to really kind of push the energy up in the same
Mhm.
way that you see the dandelion growing out of a crack in the pavement, like you can't stop me. That's
Yeah.
totally that energy of liver. So
Go
support our
dandelion.
livers and go dandelion. Awesome. I think that one other that maybe I would like to enter into this conversation is blackberry.
Yes.
Once again, one of these plants that cannot be stopped, at least here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you had many tangles with blackberry?
Oh yeah, definitely in the physical world, as
Yeah.
well as using it as an essence. I do. It's another strong one, great for focusing the will and making things happen. I I I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. But what something that's funny that always comes up for me when I think about blackberry is like the forest, in fairy tales and myth, the forest around, Sleeping Beauty that like grows up overnight with all the thorns,
Mm,
and it takes someone having to kind of hack through. And there's, it's a hero's journey. There's a transformation that happens in all of the myths, and blackberry is a part of that and taking you through, you know it's got this energy to help you go through hardships, um and to take you through these journeys, which end up being journeys of the self. I mean, however they are in the
mhm.
fairy tales, it's always a journey of the self. And so it's kind of cool that you're also thinking about it with this life purpose, which is a journey of the self. It, it is our own hero's journey. We start out at the beginning of the story, and we don't know who we are, and we go through a series of tests or, hardships, however you want to look at it. And we may be searching for the treasure or, whatever it is at the end of the path, but what we find is ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm off on a tangent, but that is
No, that's lovely. Yeah.
that life purpose journey to me is it's our own myth, it's our own fairy tale. And as we go forward in that search, we really don't go out into the world to find the treasure. We go inside and find ourselves.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. I think that's something that I've, more more times than not when I'm working with a client who we're talking about this kind of life purpose and how to connect to it. I'm always using the term like be the hero in your own story,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like quit being the one who's the one acted on. It's like, no, let's take some action. Let's find the way to frame you as not the victim, but as the hero in your own story. And I think Blackberry is one of those kind of core essences to help you connect to that. It just has that stick to itiveness. Like no matter what the adversities are, it's going to help you kind of keep going no matter what, keep going. And there are, in that mythology of the hero's journey, there's always really tough stuff. If the hero knew what he or she was heading out to do, probably staying on the couch might
Yeah.
be a great idea. Because it's never easy and there's always peril and there's always all this stuff. But there's only one direction. It's let's keep going forward.
Yeah.
Well,
That's great.
this has been absolutely
love it.
lovely. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do this like 8 times and not talk about all the essences that we love to use in these formulas for life purpose. Is
Right.
there one more that you wanted to kind of throw into this conversation?
Yeah. Well, I could cheat and say all the essences that have to do with
That is cheating.
stars and the cosmos and anything that connects you to, I think, where we came from. We came from the stars, and that things like chickweed and borage and cosmos and star of Bethlehem and star of all the other flowers that start with that name, that have that energy for connecting to, I guess, the cosmos or to the stars. And one in particular is cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
That one I, kind of helps it revel, I think, in your cosmic DNA, and that connects on a more esoteric level to our gifts that are what we're looking for when we're looking for life purpose. What are our gifts that we're bringing into the world in this incarnation, not just on a, a physical talent level, but sort of what your spirit wants to do, what your spirit loves to do. And it obviously, this gets into the more spiritual esoteric aspect of life purpose, but I feel that the essences that have that connection to the stars help bring that consciousness into the body and help feel like what we're doing here on this planet has value.
Hmm.
It kind of brings that value back into it. So maybe for any existential like concerns, that addresses that part of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think cosmos is a great essence for this topic because, like you're saying, it helps. The way I kind of see it is that it's like grounding cosmos into Earth. Grounding those extremely expansive and non-linear concepts coming into the body where you can take action on them. So it helps to translate those starry messages maybe into something that you can really use and create something out of in this physical plane.
Very eloquently put.
Well, this has been just absolutely delightful. I just love talking about this topic. It's one that it's so important for people to know about.
Yeah. Any other essences that you think about or?
Well, I'll tag team on what one of the ones that you talked about. I was
Yeah.
like, no, we must talk about borage. We must talk about borage
Oh.
because you mentioned it, and I think that it also has some of those kind of blue undertones. If you look at the leaves, and obviously the flowers are very very blue, and so I think that plants like that do have that kind of bridging quality where they help bringing spirit into matter. So I think that using borage, I mean, it is one that I use in a lot of formulas. I use it a lot with animals as well because it really helps. The word that always comes to mind is stout heartedness.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I always think of the hobbits, of like they're little and they're maybe not that super powerful and like impressive guys, but they get it done. Um, and they're stout-hearted, and I think borage kind of brings that. It's a humble little plant that kind of pops up here and there in your garden, but it just won't be taken down. It's like it's so enthusiastic, and it really helps to kind of bring your heart energy up into a place where you can take some action.
Yeah, I it's called starflower as another name of it, which is why I think I listed it in that starry flower energy
Yeah.
list. But yeah, interestingly, I see overlaps with it and dandelion as far as the courage part,
Yeah.
that soldiers wore it into battle in the old days.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, it's traditionally worn for courage going into a tricky situation.
Mm.
The borage flower, isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. Well, I think that they're working on sort of on two lines along that axis. So to me, I see dandelion because the way that it roots down straight and deep, it's kind of bringing up that earth energy, and the borage is almost bringing down that spirit energy. So
Hmm.
it's like between the two of them, you've really strengthened your vertical axis, so that you can really engage in the middle in the middle axis out in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Love it. What about any gem essences?
Ooh, that's such a good idea. I mean,
Yeah.
I think anything that's grounding is very
Hmm.
helpful. I think the gem essences are just inherently grounding, and I
Yeah.
think that one of the things that's possible to think about is that you can get really astral with certain essences, but the gems are helping to kind of bring that action into the body. So
Hmm.
I pretty much always use gems in all my formulas. I know that sapphire definitely has some qualities to help with this particular topic. What do you use?
Well, I like optical calcite or Herkimer diamond or
Oh,
something that has that real clarifying energy for bringing clarity to intellect and emotions and things like that. It helps with emotional intelligence and stimulates insight. So again, it's this path of looking for something and looking within. I think that those two are helpful for bringing forward soul's purpose.
yeah, awesome. That sounds like a really great
Yeah.
great option. And you use a lot of gem essences in your practice, I'm sure.
Yeah, it varies, as the need dictates, but I don't always use the essence. Sometimes I charge the formula with stones by
Oh,
putting
yeah.
stones around the formula I've created and letting it, I guess you could say, marinate for overnight.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah,
good stew.
yeah. What a great
And
idea.
yeah, that way I like, I can keep the flower essences, I don't know, not pure, that's not the right word, but it's just a nice way to use the stones as a booster. I like to
Mhm.
think of 'em as booster shots to the flower essence formulas.
Yeah.
They really can amplify the certain energies that you want to bring out.
Yeah, interesting. And I think that that's something that when I'm consulting with somebody, if we're talking about a certain gem that's really appropriate, a lot of times it'll be one that they're already really drawn to.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
if we're talking about something like emerald for the heart, or something along those lines, it's usually something like, oh yes, I love that stone. And if it's possible, oftentimes it's great to be able to carry a little pocket stone with you of whatever kind of gem ally you're working with in a formula. It really helps to kind of ground it into your reality and into your field.
Yeah. Yeah. I do try to also, um, it with my clients, have one of my essences in the formula be something that they could perhaps bring with them or put in their pocket as part of the plant is concerned. If oak is in the formula, go find an acorn and put it in your pocket and
Yeah.
try to connect with um, the spirit of that plant as you go forward, taking the essence over the next month, and have that be your ally that further connects you to it. So
For sure. And I think also photographs are a great way to connect in with the plant spirit energy. I love to have, on my desktop, I've got pictures of irises where they have that
mhm.
quality of like bringing in spiritual light and inspiration and creativity and all that. But when you're working with the plant in your formula, it's such a good way is to have one of the cards. A lot of the different companies have cards, or even just a photograph that you can have, anywhere around the house where you see it, where you're kind of constantly checking in with that plant and remembering it, keeping it into your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love doing it, and I tried to definitely promote that. I think it's just m- more than just taking drops out of a bottle, like a medicine, that you don't think about. Like if somebody has a headache and they pop aspirin and then they don't think about it, anymore. That's not where I want I don't want people to use flower essences that way. And I know you don't either. It's not part of what we're trying to do. It's wanting people to um, hopefully connect to that energy and have conscious intention, so that there's that just complete symbiotic um, evolution of what that person is dealing with.
I'm really excited about that idea, and I let's have our next conversation be on that topic, because that intention and intentionality and setting intentions is such a big part of my practice, and I would love to talk to you about it and find out how you use it. I think that would be a really interesting topic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. All right.
All right.
So
Yeah.
on that, it's been really great talking to you about life purpose, and have a great day. And it's been just a delight talking about the plants with you.
It has been. Thank you again, Kathleen.
You've been listening to the Flower Essence Podcast with Urkana Feld and Kathleen Aspens, and we appreciate your interest in connecting with nature on a deeper level. You can find us online at thefloweressencepodcast.com or join us on Facebook and continue the discussion.
This podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only. We are not physicians and do not diagnose, prescribe, or treat medical conditions. Please consult with your own physician or healthcare practitioner regarding the suggestions and recommendations made by the hosts and guests of the Flower Essence Podcast.